This is the Suicide King, Brad Cash, and right now you are watching Drinking at Mo.
All right, everybody, welcome to Drinking at Mo's. Host Big Mo here. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, leave a review on the podcast platforms. It definitely helps out the show. Today, I have with me Brad Cash. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. Had some craziness the last couple of days, but, keep pushing on.
I feel that.
But first thing I like to start off with most of my guests with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you started, making the leap into the business.
Oh man. Well, when I was a kid, like some of my uncles, like they watched wrestling. So like it was like always on, and like when I was a little kid, like there was always something on, like wrestling or boxing or football or whatever. So I watched it, so I was kind of a fan of everything. But it really hit again when I was a teenager. That's when I really started like diving into like the fandom and buying the shirts and everything. And man, I went to an indie show. We had a local one in town, and man, and it was typical indie show. It was in the basement of like some store, and it at max capacity held like 50 people. But I was sitting front row, and I was like, man, this shit's awesome. Like, how do I do this? And I was a football player, and my football career kind of ended on like a bad note. I tore my shoulder out, so I lost all my scholarships. And I kind of just started wrestling to kind of fill like a void, and then it just turned into a big thing.
Interesting enough, that seems to be how a lot of people get into wrestling. Like, I mean, you go as far back as, some guys that are in the Hall of Fame now, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, JBL, guys like that started off in football and ended up getting into wrestling when things winded down there.
Right.
So, I mean, and the physicality of both, it kind of fits together in a way when you think about it.
Yeah. I always thought of myself like when I played football, because I was a defensive end, and a lineman is kind of like a gimmick anyways. So wrestling's just like an extension of that, I think.
Coincidentally, when I played, those were the positions I played too. I played line on both offense and defense. I kind of preferred defense, only real direction. Go for the guy with the ball. I like that. The simplicity of defensive line, just get the guy with the ball.
Yeah, offenses, it's like, hey, you got to protect this guy and do this, and we got to fake this. And defenses is like, just fight people. That's pretty much what our coach said.
Oh yeah, and especially when you go back to high school days, sometimes you get irritated in one way or another, and there is no other way besides, I maybe think high school wrestling would probably be the only other one where like you can literally let out that aggression and it's part of the game.
Yeah. I played football and basketball, and unfortunately for my basketball, too much of the football carried over to basketball, so I was ejected a lot. I was trying to be our school Dennis Rodman.
No, I can see how that could lead to some issues in the basketball games. One thing when doing my homework for the episode, a lot of deathmatch wrestling, which I mean, I'm a fan of. I mean, I've talked with guys like Tank, Bull Bronson, one of my personal favorites, Alex Cologne, which I actually have some ring worn and signed kick pads of his downstairs that I'm gonna get displayed. Have it in the background here eventually. But one thing that I've always kind of liked is I like the style of deathmatch wrestling, like with you and Alex Cologne, Bull Bronson stuff, more so than you see a lot of promotions out there that'll say, they're having like a Texas death match when it's real, in all reality, just a hardcore match, regular old hardcore match. What are some of your thoughts, like legit, what I call legit death match versus, the more just regular hardcore?
I think it really just depends, or like the stipulation. Like a couple years ago, like we had like death matches on one show, like it was me against Raven Havoc. We were using like light tubes and shit. But like then there was another match. It was a Cadillac Cowboy Stephen Burns against Tristan Ramsey, and they were doing a Texas death match. And you see a lot of shows like throw that word in, Texas death match, and you're like, that's not very death matchy. But they made sense to where it was still like, oh man, this is good, even though it's not like blood and guts. Like they did like the old Terry Funk with like the flaming branding iron and stuff like that. So I think if it's done right, hardcore street fights, Texas death match, bull rope matches, all that stuff can bring just as much violence as a death match, but they got to be done right.
Oh no, I can definitely agree. You go back to, like you brought up, Terry Funk, early days of him, and the I Quit matches and stuff that he had. Like, good Lord, the guy could bring the violence and not have like all of the light tubes and everything.
Right.
So I very much so agree. If it's done right, the air quotes Texas death match, and if it's bringing that intensity and done right, very much I like it just as much, because I gravitate towards the people that bring out that intensity in their matches.
Right.
Another thing people often confuse with deathmatch wrestling, like some of the detractors in a way, they liken it to like sloppy backyard wrestling. What do you say so much about that sort of thing? Because I, for one, like when it's done in the style that a lot of the more, I guess, becoming more mainstream promotions do it, when it's done right, like you said, it can be pretty damn good. But when it's done sloppily, I can see the comparisons to backyard wrestling.
It's weird. One, I can tell everybody deathmatch wrestling is not sloppy backyard wrestling, because as a teenager, I did sloppy backyard wrestling, and I wouldn't pay to watch that shit, but I'd pay to watch death matches now.
No.
But I mean, you're gonna have like your sloppy death match. You're gonna have your sloppy matches of like every genre.
Yeah.
And of course, there's gonna be the people that are like, it's no different than like you see two high flyers go out there and let's say they botch a couple spots, and there's gonna be somebody that's like, oh, that high flying stuff's bullshit. That ain't wrestling. But if Trey Miguel goes out and does it, it's fucking art,
Oh yeah.
I think that's the thing. My only thing with the death matches and is I think now, like, we've all gotten kind of complacent of everybody literally doing the same match the whole card. Like it's like light tube, gusset, skewers, and it's like and it'll be every match. And which while the general public that enjoys death matches now, they're like, hey, that's pretty cool. To make sure that we don't get typecasted again, I wish guys would vary it up more. Like maybe this match uses like a bunch of light tubes and this match uses like gussets,
Mm.
or like there's a tournament, then like your main match uses like all this shit. That way we don't get pigeonholed again as being guys that can't work.
No.
When most of us can.
Oh yeah, no, there you actually look into a lot of the well, again, air quotes, death match wrestlers. Like you go and look into some of their a lot of other matches that aren't necessarily fully in the death match style. They're like a good number of you guys can really go like you, like Alex Colon, like hell, John Wayne Murdoch. I've been in talks with him, but he got injured over there in Japan, so I'm letting him heal up a bit before I try to pursue that further. But man, guys like I mentioned, like you and them, like can really freaking go.
I appreciate that. While like guys like Alex and them, like technical wise, like I can't even touch them technical wise. I like to think that I can tell a good story, but like you watch guys now like Akira or MM3 or Eric Dillinger or even like Matt Raby, where I'm from. Like he's kind of unknown to most places, but I mean he can wrestle with anyone and he can do death matches. I like the fact that there's more hybrids out there now than there was when I first started.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely those hybrid wrestlers that can, like I said, they can do both. And
Even Tank can get a headlock right every once in a while.
Tank was a good conversation. I actually had him on the show before I took my little bit of a break, and that was a fun one.
I'm sure it was a lot of goddams and
oh yeah, there was. Before I get into, well, there's some wacky match names that I was wanting to go over. When doing my research, there was some stuff with IWA Mid-South that popped up. And I mean, with all the controversy that's been going on around them, the people on the show, like you, like others that have been on the show, definitely put on solid shows. So like you can't take away from the people on the card. Like I tried to tell people, yeah, the backstage BS, for lack of a better way to put it, don't want that detracting from everybody on the card that put on damn solid shows. What was some of your, like, I guess, favorite memories from there? Because they put on some solid like deathmatch tournaments and just regular old solid shows.
A lot of my favorite memories barely even involve being in the ring there. Because the locker rooms were always filled with like really cool people, and like I was back there when you had like a younger MJF there, and a slightly younger Trey Miguel, and Jake Chris before he got signed to TNA or Impact, sorry, and a lot of those guys, Mance Warner, like when he was first getting like really noticed, and man, it was just good times to hang out. And I will say this: Ian never shorted me on money. I'm not defending him because I know people he did short, but I just he never shorted me, so I don't jump on like the like he didn't pay people shit, because he did pay me, but I know a lot of guys he didn't pay. That being said, I probably will not be going back. Just because of everything. But it was, I mean, it was my first deathmatch tournament was King of the Death 2016. and I did 2017 too, which I think he was just trying to kill me because he kept putting me in there with like Masada and Tremont and Cannonball and Bryant Woods. Like every year it was always like, this is the biggest name we're bringing in. Go out there and kill Brad. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. Some of those guys that are like pretty synonymous with deathmatch tournaments, and year after year getting put in with them. It's like you want to prove that you can hang with them, but then it's like, geez, like maybe not like first round put me in there with them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I was always like, man, this is so cool, and then my very first one, Jeff Cannonball does a they had this light tube cross, and it was like looking at it, it was like 10 feet tall. Like I don't know how tall it actually was, but it felt like it was like 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
Hang on, there we go, now you can see me. But he does like a cannonball roll into it, and I'm sitting behind it, and he pulls me out, and I hit him with a move, and I pin him. And then he looks at me and he goes, Jesus. And I said, what? And he goes, your fucking nose is gone. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then Bryant gives me something, and he goes to pin me, and he goes, Jesus. And I'm like, what? And he's like, your fucking nose is gone. And I'm like, why does everybody keep saying my nose is gone? And I get to the back, and Randy West was injured, so she was doing like all the medical stuff. And everybody's like, get Brad's face. And I go into like the little medical trailer we had with her and Satu, we're doing all the medical stuff. And she was like, oh my God. She was like, Satu, hold his nose back up on his face, and I'm gonna glue it there.
Oh no.
And apparently I had cut it like right through here. And it was
just
like
hanging.
this whole part of my nose was like right here.
Oh geez.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's
oh goddamn. But like I mentioned before I started talking about the IWA Mid-South, there are, like, doing my research, there are some wacky names for some of these matches. Like, I mean, the first one I'm going to bring up, the first part of it is kind of self-explanatory. I actually have a friend here that's going to be having one here a week from Saturday. No rope barbed wire, but this other part of the name, the Japanese buckles. I'm like, what the? Like, I kind of wanted to hear what the hell was that.
That had to get explained to us too, because we were very confused going into that. Like, so because that was a tag match. It was me and my wife, Sarah Dox, against Sage Sin and John Wayne Murdoch. And I wasn't sure what he meant. And my dumb ass was like, are the turnbuckles going to have like Japanese writing on it? Because I always go with whatever my first thought is, and it's never the right one. But it was, he got like these particle boards and made them look like the, like, in Japan, like the turnbuckles, they're like solid. They're like rectangle instead of three separate pieces most of the time. But they had like gimmicks on them. Like one had gussets, one had light tubes, and one or two had barbed wire on it. So it was, you had no rope barbed wire, but then if you got slung into the corner, it was going to hurt like hell too.
That explains it. Yeah, when I was doing my homework for it and looking up stuff, I'm like, what in the hell is that? Another one that came up, a scaffold mousetrap.
Oh man. First of all, fuck that match. Because when they brought the match up to me, they said it was a mousetrap match. And I was like, okay, like that sucks, but I'll do it. And then get there, or I see the flyer before I get there, and it says scaffold and mousetrap match. And I was like, well, that's weird. And apparently it was a rib on me because I'm afraid of heights.
Mm.
So they built this scaffold that went over the ring, and the way to win was to throw your opponent off into the mouse traps.
Oh,
And I'm terrified of heights. And what's funny is looking back at the footage, the scaffold was literally like maybe only 6 feet above the ring, maybe 8. But having to climb up it from the outside, I mean, I did not want to. I didn't want to be on it. If you find the footage, there's a part of it where I'm on the scaffold and I'm on my hands and knees, and that is all legit. Like I am terrified of being on that scaffold. I don't want to be up there anymore. I'm I'm trying to I'm trying my best to
yeah.
not be up there. Yeah, I was that fuck that match.
Oh man, I can only imagine. I mean, that match in and of itself sounds pretty terrifying, but especially like if you're afraid of heights and like you said, it might have only been like 6, 8 feet off the ground, but I mean, when you're afraid of heights, 6 feet, 8 feet off the ground could feel like 20, 30 feet up.
Yeah, that's what I told them too. I was like, well, look, guys, I'm like 6'3", so like my eyes are like, you know, over 12 feet off the ground at that point. Like, like that's a far drop for my eyes.
Yeah.
But I hated that match so bad.
Oh man.
Jimmy Rave was there, and I got to the back, and he was like, man, he was like, you did so good at acting like you were scared. And I was like, thanks, man. And then the guy I wrestled was like, acting? That motherfucker about shit himself. And and Jimmy brought that up every time I saw him after that.
Oh man, that's some crazy stuff. Another one that I wanted to bring up because it's another one that I was curious to hear what this one was about. Horror movie death.
Okay. That was something I kind of like came up with. Um it was me against one of my old tag partners, and he had never done a death match. So I thought if I kind of went with something that he enjoyed or could relate to, like it would kind of ease him into it a little bit, like he wouldn't be as nervous.
Yeah.
Man, I was not expecting what was going to happen that night. It was a fun match. Me and Danny only, and like they had like a box of like old horror VHSs, that a knife board. There was there were meat hooks in the match and chains and rope, and I don't know. We had a lot of just weird stuff in it. Like I think there was a Jason mask with thumbtacks on it. But it being Danny's first death match, I was trying to, let him kind of shine up a little bit. And I picked up a kitchen knife, and I was like, all right, what I want you to do is, I was like, my arm's already bleeding. Fight the knife out of my hand, pick one up, put it on my arm, and just kind of work it in. Like let's give him a good show, like work it in. And Danny goes, okay. And he grabs my arm and he picks up the kitchen knife, and then he stabs me in my arm. Like legit, just fucking full slasher, psycho, fucking stabs me in the arm, and everybody in the back, like Tank and Insane Lane and the Rev, they're all watching this on the monitor, and my wife's back there, and my wife says the Rev just starts laughing because as soon as he stabs me, I get the most like pissed off look on my face. Like he was like, how the fuck does he get stabbed? And he just gets mad. Like he's been selling all this other stuff, and then he gets legit stabbed, and he's like, motherfucker. And Danny was like, is that not what you wanted? I was like, why the fuck would I want my arm stabbed with a kitchen knife? Outside of that, the match was fun. It was good. But that is the horror movie death match.
Mm. Well, well, kind of the last one that isn't self-explanatory, but I'm like, okay, I saw the name of it, so I'm like, I have to ask about this one. Staple Dicks.
Oh man. That is a Randy West and Joseph Schwartz invention, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You get a bag of these cut out like cardboard paper dicks that Randy West made and made them all different sizes, and you had like brown, red, blue, yellow, green, white. You had all the dicks you could imagine, and then they had this like 4-foot dick, and the whole thing is just whoever staples 4 dicks to their opponent first, like best of 7.
Okay.
And that 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 is probably one of my favorite matches I think I've ever done.
Oh man.
Something about the staple dicks match, man. I don't know what it was. I was just really feeling myself.
You know what?
That sounds horrible.
I don't know if it's just the name of it that's just like, okay, I don't want to see this match now. But another one that this one, I guess I kind of already know an explanation on what it all involves, because everybody, like a lot of wrestling fans, they know of the Taipei death match. I've got a friend that's been in 2 of them. My one thing is this one, I guess, kind of self-explanatory, the barefoot Taipei death match. So like, not only are you like the taped up fist with broken glass on them, but you're walking around barefoot and possibly getting your feet all cut up too.
Yeah, my wife, Sarah Doc, she does a lot of the barefoot death matches, and that's, to me, that's one of the grossest matches there is. I've watched Colt 45 and Adam Bueller do one and thought I was going to puke. They're good. It's just it weirds me out. But she kept teasing me about doing one, so I was like, okay, well, you don't like broken glass.
Some noise in the. And we are back. Dog having a. Oh. Okay, maybe not. I'm gonna have to edit some stuff. All right, I'm back. Dogs being weird, have to make sure they're not biting each other. But we were into the Taipei death match, the barefoot Taipei death match.
Right. So my wife was teasing me about being in one, because I'm not a fan of the barefoot stuff, of doing one.
Yeah.
But she hates broken glass. So I was like, all right, if I do one with you, then we got to make it Taipei, since you don't like that. Like, you got to meet me in the middle. And we did. And so my wife is very good at kicking the shit out of me. But man, to be 100% honest, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still sucked, like a lot. But some of the stuff on it wasn't as bad as I thought. Everything hurt that night, but not as bad as I was afraid of.
Well, that's good, because I can definitely say that just from reading the name of it, I'm like, okay, ouch.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
Tank was in the back when we were getting ready for it, and I was wrapping tape around my ankle and putting glass on my ankle, essentially, and Tank was over there like, you're goddamn stupid. Blah, blah, blah. I never passed up an opportunity to do Tank's voice. So
hey, nothing wrong with that. we have talked a little bit about the current wrestling product. Do you pay close attention to anybody in particular, or like any of it in general? Because I know I've talked with some people that it's like they're so busy with their own stuff and, you know, getting ready for their own shows, that when they get a chance to watch something else, not often is it wrestling.
Right. I watch some people. I don't watch wrestling as much as I used to, but it's kind of like that. Like I just get real busy. But there are people that I enjoy watching. Some of them I mentioned earlier, like Eric Dillinger and MM3 and Akira.
Hmm.
See, man, I know he's a heat magnet, and I know a lot of people don't like him, but if you take all that away, man, some of Dirty Ron's matches are just really like oh my god, I can't believe he just did that, you know. And you know, I mean, throw everything else out, like you know, like you got that. Atticus is
Hmm.
fucking amazing, and I like Atticus's promos.
No.
You know, Jake, I really like watching Trey Miguel. I'll probably say Trey Miguel like 50 times on this podcast. I
Hey.
really like Trey. I don't, and I'm not one of the people that's like, oh, fuck WWE or AEW. I don't have cable, so I don't. I only watch what I see on my on like Facebook. Um, but, I mean, there and then there's another guy, man, Brian Richards, that has been coming down my way a little bit, man. He's young and he's newer to wrestling, but man, he's just really fucking good. Like I enjoy watching him.
Oh yeah, and you know, you bring up Trey Miguel. I actually ran into him at Wrestling Revolver in Des Moines, like Tales from the Ring. I think it was tail end of September, I believe. And he was in there with Myron Reed and uh, another guy for the Rascals. I'm having a brain fart here, but man, I like you. I'm definitely a fan of not just him, but you know the entire Rascals team, because I mean they have very similar like styles that like they all fit very well together.
I just like it because I feel like when I watch that he's all of them really are very creative
Mm,
and find new ways to do like things that maybe have even been done before, but they find new ways to go into stuff, and you're not watching the same match over and over again.
yeah, no, that is very true with those guys. I've definitely become a very big fan of theirs. Before I get into these last couple of categories, I like to ask each of my guests some stuff about, you know, what is the day in the life like for you? Like outside of wrestling, like I know a lot of people that I've talked to in wrestling, they collecting like wrestling figures and stuff, like they go and get the ones of people they've either been a fan of as a kid, or like if people they've wrestled end up having one, you know, they collect those. Like what is the day in the life like for you?
Um, man, that is a loaded question.
Yeah.
So I've had a really really strange life. I know everybody's got a story, but like mine is not that mine's like better or worse or whatever. Mine's really strange, but at least the last couple years have been a little more calm on the day-to-day aspect. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I got three kids that are always either want me to watch something with them or go outside and sword fight or go outside and play ball, or they're in one of like their preteen or teen moods where they're like, oh my God, I hate you. Like, don't talk to me today. I'm going to go listen to Billie Eilish, who took me like a year to realize that they weren't saying Billie Eyelids. So I just thought some girl was walking around with the name Eyelids. And there's that, taking care of the dogs, all that. But I mean, I like TV and I like I do collect some stuff. I have an assortment of wrestling figures. Most of them were ones that I enjoyed when I was younger. So like I got like some Kevin Nash's or like some old school like Scott Hall's and like the Four Horsemen. But I just collect a lot of things I like. Like there's like Lord of the Rings stuff in there. There's
Yeah.
our house is essentially just like a walking like fanboy closet. Like as soon as you walk in, you're like, oh man, those are lightsabers on the wall. Oh man, there's a battle axe over there. Oh man, is that from Ninja Turtles? Like we're just and I collect sports stuff.
Oh yeah. No.
Um I just like my things, I guess. They it's my little center of gravity, I guess.
No, nothing wrong with that. I know, like, I have my assortment of stuff. Like, I like collecting, like, autographed things from guests I have. Like, I was invited down to Warrior Wrestling when they were in St. Louis. I got a show poster signed by at least everybody that was on the poster and the vast majority of everybody else on the card. I mentioned Wrestling Revolver. I got a show poster from there with some former guests and a bunch of the other people on the card. Wrestling figures. I'm a big Stone Cold Steve Austin guy, so I got my assortment of his stuff, and I got a handful of actually like figures I actually got signed by like Hangman Adam Page, Keith Lee, Jeff Cobb. That's one of my favorites actually.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, no, collecting stuff, definitely get it, especially Ninja Turtles. Growing up, I've said it with a few different guests. Growing up, professional wrestling and Ninja Turtles, that was my stuff right there. But now on to my categories that I like to round off the show with everybody. One bit of a name game. When doing my homework for the episode, I go and find names of people that you've either teamed with or shared the ring with in one way or another. And you give me your thoughts.
Okay.
First one, Mickey Knuckles.
I love Mickey. Mickey's a very interesting person. But it was we've only been in the ring together once, but it was an honor to be in the ring with Mickey.
Oh yeah, no, she is definitely. There's one other female. Well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of female that you could call equal opportunity ass kickers, but she is very much the living embodiment of that, I would like to say.
Yeah, very, very much so. Also, if Mickey hands you Kool-Aid before your match, don't drink it because it'll be like 80% vodka. I told her I was thirsty and she was like, oh, there's some Kool-Aid over there before our match. And I didn't realize that it was like the after match party Kool-Aid for everybody. And I was really thirsty and I drank 3 cups of it and was completely like trash for the match.
So. Oh boy. Next person on the list is actually the person that a friend of mine is going to be having a no rope barbed wire death match with a week from Saturday here in Omaha. The Carver.
Oh man, the Carver's dope. The Carver is really good, and just from when I was first around him to seeing like how he's progressed just in that time period, The Carver's awesome, and I like the gimmick. So.
Oh yeah, I definitely love the gimmick. He comes around Omaha quite often, and he's in a feud that's going to be having the blow off to it in a no rope barbed wire death match against another good friend of mine. So I'm literally so excited for that one, because my normal seat that I usually get for the show is like front row, right at the entrance. So I'm like, I joked around like, dude, if it spills out to the ring and somebody like turns around too fast or something, I could get blood on me. I've had that happen before. Somebody got hit with a light tube and they got spun around, and before I knew it, I had blood on my shirt, on my phone. It was funny. But next one on the list, we kind of talked about him a little bit earlier. John Wayne Murdoch.
John's really cool. He's definitely one of the biggest, like, what's the word I'm thinking? Like, his presence is huge. Like when John's wrestling, no matter what kind of match it is, because for the longest time I'd only had like regular matches with John. We didn't have a death match until last year. As weird as that was, because we've been around each other for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
But his presence, he's got one of the biggest, like, everybody's going to watch this match.
Yeah.
Type feels when he comes out. So.
I would definitely agree. Like, I've never had the pleasure of actually being there in person for one of his matches. I'm crossing my fingers to have that happen here someday soon. But the matches that I've seen of his, because I've watched plenty of them live on like Fight TV and stuff. But yeah, I can very much agree with your assessment there. He has that presence that it's like, you definitely know you're in for some good stuff.
Yeah.
Next one, very synonymous with the GCW and some of their scramble matches, Jimmy Lloyd.
Jimmy, man, Jimmy is hard to read sometimes. Like, we wrestled one time, and it was good. It was a good match. Man, he's just really hard to read when you talk to him. That's not really a good or bad thing. It's just, I mean, we wrestled each other and that was it. So.
No, nothing wrong with that. I mean, definitely some people can be definitely hard to read. So, I mean, some people are just that way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's a different boy. So.
Hey, they always say in GCW during his entrances, you're fucking with a different boy.
Yeah.
So next one on the list, we've talked about him a handful of times. You mentioned you love to do your impression of him, Tank.
God damn. I can honestly say, even when we get heated at each other, because that's what happens when you're around somebody for so many years, and he's who I've had definitely the most death matches with. If it was not for Tank, I probably never would have gotten the chance to do death matches. So I guess you could say without Tank, you don't have Brad Cash at this point at all. So, like, because I probably would have stopped wrestling a long time ago.
That's cool. Next one kind of brought him up a little bit myself. Last person on the list, Bull Bronson.
Bull's my dude.
He was a fun
that's all I can say, man. Bull's my dude. Man, that big son of a bitch. He's cool, but man, he's a fucking mountain when you're wrestling him. Like, you hit Bull, like, you can hit him as hard as you can. You might knock him back like an inch or two, and then bull just like puts his body weight into you and you go flying backwards. Like I'm 300 pounds. If you can knock me all over the place, like you're a machine. Um and but that's my dude though. Like we talk about like Lord of the Rings and all kinds of shit. We rarely ever actually talk about wrestling unless it's just something we're talking about doing or whatever. So, but yeah, Bull's awesome.
Oh yeah, he was a fun conversation. I was glad to have him on. I always, and like I was going to tell you later, I tell a lot of people, like especially Bull Bronson, Tank, a few others that I've had on. Welcome back anytime. You're definitely on that list of people. Next, I have my little bit of a randomizer round. I usually had called it a, speed round, but it never ended up going that quick, so I changed up the name of it. But some questions might be wrestling related, some might not be. You answer how you see fit. First one weapon that you would not want to be hit with in a match.
Oh man, man, I normally have like an automatic like that one. I'm trying to fucking Kenzans. Yeah, fuck those things. Like every time I see somebody take one of those, it takes like 4 people to pry them out of someone's head. Like fuck all that. I don't want to do that shit. I already hate it enough taking skewers and gussets. Like I have a sensitive hairline, so
no. I've had some people tell me, like I've talked with a handful of deathmatch wrestlers. I've had a few actually tell me one that they didn't like and they hope they don't get it again. Toothpicks. Because the way they described it was like you get hit with one of those and it get lodged in, and like let's say you try to take it out but you break off.
Oh yeah, they break off. Yeah,
you break off the wrong piece, and then it's like shit, now you got that lodged inside of you.
I haven't really used them, or like we had like one kind of little gimmick thing with them once, but I did see DJ Hyde and John Wayne Murdoch use them one night, and they got stuck all in John's like side, and that shit was gross.
Only imagine. Next question on the list: favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or not.
So that's a 2-parter. Non-alcoholic is always Mellow Yellow. If anybody ever sees me, they know my go-to drink of choice is Mellow Yellow. That's probably why I'm 300 pounds now. But I don't know. It's just always been like a comfort thing for me. So that's my go-to. Alcoholic. Oh boy. Man, there's a lot. I really like the like that Conor McGregor Proper 12. Like I don't give a fuck that it's Conor McGregor's. It tastes really good. That, and I found a recipe online once called a Bruce Wayne, and it's like maple syrup and bourbon and frozen coffee. And I don't know what it is about that, but that is my shit.
Huh. I might need to try that sometime. That actually sounds.
Man, you should definitely look it up. They're dangerous though, because you'll be like, man, this isn't doing shit, and then you'll next thing you know, you drink like 6 of them, and then
I consider myself more of a beer guy, but there are some mixed drinks that I've had, especially with a couple of these different types of tequila. It's like it's so smooth. You put that in some, before you know it, you're having like 4 or 5 of them, and you're like, oh boy.
Oh yeah. I know the recipe. It's 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila floor. Every time.
No, every time.
Innocent Gun is a good beer too if you've ever tried it. It's a Scottish beer, but
Mm.
They're hard to find around here, but man, they're really really good. They're really solid.
I might need to keep an eye out on that one. One of my personal favorites is actually a Kona Big Wave. Love that.
I don't know if I've had that.
That or the Kona Longboard. Either one of those, more so the Kona Big Wave, but love it. But next one, I think I might already know the answer because judging from one of the things we talked about with one of your first deathmatch tournaments, I'm like, that's probably going to be the answer to this question. But craziest in-match moment.
Man, surprisingly, was not my nose getting cut off. I, oh man, let's see. Yeah, the nose, and then I nearly did the same thing to my pinky against TJ Phillips one night. Oh man, I don't know, because I have a lot of like meaningful moments that were pretty crazy. But I think to just keep it funny, I'm gonna go back to the match with TJ Phillips. We were at some like music and wrestling fest, and they had a bunch of bands there, and there were a lot of us partaking in stuff, but somebody handed me like this like vape pen, right? And they were like, "Here, try this." Now I'm a genuinely smart person, generally smart person. That made me sound dumb. But I am really bad about when people are like, "Hey, here you go," and I'm like, "Oh man, what's this? Let's try it." And I look at them and I said, "What flavor is it?" And they said dabs, and I didn't know what those were. So I start hitting it, and I'm like, "This shit ain't working." I just keep hitting it over and over again. And then my friends saw me, and they're like, "Brad, no, stop." And so I got really high, and I go out and I do the match, and there was a band called the Jasons that were there, and they're a punk band that wear like Jason Voorhees mask. And me and they walked TJ to the ring because they were friends with him, and TJ throws me out of the ring, and I'm so just like gone that I saw the Jasons and I panicked while I was outside, and I curled up in a ball and started crying and said, "Please, please, Mr. Voorhees, leave me alone." Until and they were supposed to like kick me because they were like his managers, and I'm just like, "Please no, please no." And one of them just kicks me right in the fucking stomach as hard as he can. And I'm just like, "Fuck you, white shoes, Jason." And I popped up ready to fight. And TJ was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, "Oh my God, Jason Voorhees is out here. And 6 of them are trying to kill me, but I'm going to kick the shit out of that 7th one." So, so that was that was one of the weirdest moments I've had. I'll say that. There's too many high emotion moments or like oh my God, is he alive moments to narrow down, but that one sticks out as like one of my funnier ones.
Yeah, I why. Next question: show day must-haves, like whether it be stuff you get before you hit the road for a show, or stuff you have to have at the show.
If it's on the road, it's gummy bears. Gummy bears or gummy worms. I don't know why. It's what I gotta have. Insane Lane will tell you that before we travel together, he will stop and get a giant bag of them just for me. It might be to shut me up when we're on the road, but because I'm pretty content when I get them. But definitely gummy bears. If I'm if I'm if I'm wrestling local or somewhere where like I have time to do stuff in the morning, I gotta have eggs.
Mm,
So eggs and gummy bears, those are my go-tos.
nothing wrong with that. But always good when you're traveling to have that go-to road trip snack. So nothing wrong with some gummy bears. And I mean, I was going to say this when we were talking about the non-alcoholic drinks. You brought up Mellow Yellow.
Mhm.
That way with Dr. Pepper. Same damn.
Okay.
Like people joke with me. Like I've been sent memes of, you know, only like cars, and it'll say only getting the essentials, and the entire back seat is filled with nothing but Dr. Pepper. I'm like,
I know some guys like that.
yep, that fits me pretty well. Next, and actually last one, best advice for anybody getting into wrestling.
Oh man. Man, it's weird because things are so much different now than they were when I first started. Um, I think the main thing is like ask yourself like what do you want out of it?
Mm,
Because for years, like everybody always ends up acting like who they're around. Um, especially when you're young. And I was around a bunch of elitists for a while, and they were all like, "Oh, if you're not in this to, get to WWE, or whatever, then, then fuck you, get out or whatever." Or then you got the guys that are like, I'm a 30-year vet and I wrestle one time a year, you know. So, but my thing is like, what do you want out of it? And be honest with yourself about it. Like, do you need to get better to get where you want to go? Then get better. Are you complacent with where you're at? Then be complacent. Just make sure you don't downgrade, or regress, I guess.
yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. You want to be honest with yourself, and when it comes to however long you're going to be in the business, you would definitely want to keep progressing and getting better, and not the opposite, basically.
Also, guys need to um one thing is like guys need to learn to protect themselves. Like guys ain't not just guys but everybody. And I don't just mean like in a fighting aspect. Like,
Yeah,
learn to protect yourself in the ring from yourself even. There's a lot of us. I don't think people, especially deathmatch wrestlers, get into death matches because we're all fully mentally all there. So definitely like mental health is a thing to keep track of. And I wish somebody would have said that to me when I first started.
yeah,
There's a lot, and like I'm not super big on like cancel culture because I think it's too like there's too many what ifs with it.
yeah,
But like if someone does do something to you, and I'm not just talking to like the ladies here, like I'm talking like everybody, because I mean shit can happen to you. I mean shit's happened to me, and that you learn to defend yourself, but also don't be afraid to go to one of your wrestling brothers or sisters and be like, "Hey, like this just happened. I need your help."
yeah. No, definitely all good advice, especially with protect. You want to, like you were just saying, you know, you need to know, like, mental health is definitely very important. I've learned that very much so recently. But, if something's happening that's got you like in a bad mental state because of what somebody else did in a show or outside of the show, you got to be able to know when to be like, okay, no, or be like you said, go to somebody you trust at the show and be like, hey, this is going on. I need help figuring out what to do.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because I mean, like shit happened to me when I was younger, like in the business, and I was so like afraid to tell anybody because I was just like, man, they're just gonna be like, suck it up, stop being a little bitch, or
yeah,
whatever, and I'm gotta said something. So, but
No, there.
at least the next person, can learn from my mistakes, I guess.
Yeah, no, there's definitely things everybody can learn from different stuff. But that is about all I have for tonight. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And where can people find you? So get their eyes on you, check out some matches and that sort.
Well, upcoming, I know that they're supposed to be announcing how it will be viewed, but I have the CZW Tournament of Death coming up.
Yes.
I've been trying my best not to get tunnel vision, for that, and still do all my other stuff. But that's a big one for me.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful they reached out. So you got that. YouTube, like there's all kinds of shit of me on YouTube. So some of it's old stuff that's not very good. But I know I have matches on IWTV. If Anarchy still has footage on Fight, I know there's a lot of footage of me on that. But I mean mainly like, just check my Facebook, see what shows I got coming up. If I'm local, I'm not that big of a dickhead, so like if people want to come up and say hi to me or whatever, if you come with gummy bears or a mellow yellow, I will be your best friend that night.
That'll be the way to win you over, huh?
Yeah.
All righty. Well, like I said, that's all I have for tonight. Again, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I'll have some of the info for those shows up in the description when I get it posted so people can go check it out.
All right. Thank you for having me.